My daughter-in-law threw my heart medications in the trash, saying, "You don't need these, you're fine." 2 days later, I collapsed. When the paramedic saw the empty bottles and asked who stopped them, she proudly said, "I did." Then he said something that made her face turn white. Before we start, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. My name is Margaret Thompson, and at 68 years old, I never imagined I'd be telling this story. But here I am, sharing it because someone out there might need to hear it, might need to know they're not alone, might need to recognize the warning signs before it's too late. I wasn't always the fragile old woman my daughter-in-law saw when she looked at me. For 42 years, I stood in front of classrooms filled with restless third graders, teaching them to read, to write, to believe in themselves. I was the teacher who stayed after school to tutor struggling students for free, who spent my own money on supplies for kids whose parents couldn't afford them. My students still send me Christmas cards 30 years later, telling me how I changed their lives. I raised my son David alone after his father walked out when David was just 7. Those were the hardest years of my life. I remember standing in my kitchen at midnight, grading papers while soup simmered on the stove for the next day's dinner, my feet aching from my second job at the department store. But I never let David see me cry. I never let him know how many meals I skipped so he could eat, how many new clothes I didn't buy so he could have his soccer uniforms, his school supplies, his college applications. When David graduated from law school, I sat in that auditorium with tears streaming down my face. My boy, my baby, had made it. Every sacrifice, every late night, every double shift had been worth it. He met Jennifer at his law firm, where she worked as a paralegal before getting her real estate license. She was beautiful, confident, everything I wasn't. The wedding was elegant, and yes, I sold my mother's pearl necklace and my wedding rings to help pay for it. David didn't know. He didn't need to know. 3 years ago, my husband Robert passed away suddenly from a stroke. We'd only had 15 years together, a second chance at love for both of us, but they were golden years. His death left me hollowed out, standing in a house too big and too empty. That's when David suggested I move in with them. "Mom, you've done everything for me. Let me take care of you now," he said, holding my hands in his. Jennifer stood beside him, nodding with what I thought was genuine warmth. "We want you close, Mom. Emma needs her grandmother." Emma. My 5-year-old granddaughter with her wild copper curls and infectious laugh. She has my eyes, everyone says so, those same green eyes that skip a generation. When I moved into their guest room, Emma helped me arrange my belongings, carefully placing my pill organizer on the bathroom shelf, my reading glasses on the nightstand, my photo albums in the bookcase. "Grandma Maggie's home now," she announced proudly. I brought more than just my belongings to their home. I brought my teacher's pension, my Social Security, Robert's life insurance payout that I'd carefully saved, but more importantly, I brought my whole heart, ready to pour all my love into this new chapter. I helped with cooking despite my arthritis. I read stories with different voices that made Emma giggle. I tended the garden, growing the same tomatoes my mother had taught me to grow, the seeds passed down through generations. I thought I'd found my place, my purpose in these twilight years. I thought I was safe, loved, needed. How wrong I was. Sometimes the people who smile the widest hide the sharpest knives. Life in David and Jennifer's house had settled into a rhythm that felt like a warm embrace. Every morning at 6:30, I'd wake to the sound of mourning doves outside my window, their soft calls better than any alarm clock. I'd make my way to the kitchen, careful not to wake anyone, and start the coffee pot that David bought specifically because I mentioned missing my old one. The dark roast would fill the house with its rich aroma, and by 7, David would stumble downstairs, following the scent like a sleepwalker. "Morning, Mom," he'd mumble, kissing my cheek before pouring himself a cup. These quiet moments, just the two of us before the house came alive, reminded me of his high school years when I'd make him breakfast before his early morning basketball practice. Now he was the one rushing off, briefcase in hand, but he always had 5 minutes to sit with me, to share the silence that only a mother and son understand. By 8, the house would transform into controlled chaos. Jennifer would appear, perfectly put together even at this ungodly hour, her makeup flawless, her real estate blazer pressed and professional. Emma would bounce into the kitchen, still in her dinosaur pajamas, demanding pancakes shaped like butterflies. I'd already have the batter ready, the special recipe with a hint of vanilla that my own mother taught me. Jennifer would check her phone while eating yogurt, occasionally showing me houses she was selling, million-dollar properties that seemed like movie sets to me. After they left, David to his law firm, Jennifer to her showings, Emma to kindergarten, the house would become mine. I'd take my medications with breakfast, the white pills for my heart, the blue ones for blood pressure, the small yellow one for cholesterol. 7 pills in total, each one keeping me stable, keeping me here. Dr. Morrison had been clear during my last appointment. Margaret, these medications are the difference between you being here for Emma's graduation and not. Don't skip them, don't forget them. The afternoons were my favorite. I'd work in the garden, my hands deep in the soil, coaxing life from seeds. The neighbors, Mrs. Chen and Mr. Rodriguez, would often stop by the fence to chat and admire my tomatoes. Margaret's magic touch, Mrs. Chen would say, accepting the bag of vegetables I'd hand over the fence. The garden connected me to something timeless, something that existed before pills and doctors, something my grandmother did and her grandmother before her. 3:15 sharp, Emma's school bus would rumble down the street. I'd be waiting on the porch, just like I used to wait for David. She'd run to me, backpack bouncing, stories spilling out about her day. We had our routine. Snack time first, always apple slices with peanut butter arranged like a flower on her special plate. Then homework at the kitchen table where I'd help her practice writing her letters, her little tongue poking out in concentration. Evenings were family time. I'd help Jennifer with dinner, though she preferred to lead, following recipes from her tablet with precision. She'd talk about her sales, the difficult clients, the competitive market. I'd listen, genuinely interested, asking questions that made her eyes light up. She seemed to appreciate having someone who understood that her work was more than just showing houses. David would come home around 7, tired but always making time to throw Emma in the air, her squeals of delight filling the house with joy. After Emma's bedtime, we'd sometimes watch television together, Jennifer and David on the love seat, me in the recliner with my knitting. Jennifer would occasionally ask about the scarves I was making, even requesting specific colors for her winter showings. These peaceful evenings, the clicking of my needles mixing with the TV's soft murmur, felt like everything I dreamed retirement could be. Before bed, I'd take my evening medications, organize the next day's pills, say my prayers thanking God for this second chance at family life. I'd fall asleep feeling useful, loved, needed. How could I have known that this peaceful existence was about to shatter? It started on a Thursday evening in late September, one of those golden autumn days when the leaves outside were just beginning to turn amber and scarlet. I'd been living with David and Jennifer for 6 months by then, long enough that their house truly felt like home. I was heading to the bathroom for my evening medication routine when I noticed something off. My pill organizer, the clear plastic one with compartments labeled for each day of the week, wasn't in its usual spot on the second shelf of the medicine cabinet. I found it on the bottom shelf, pushed behind Jennifer's expensive face creams. Strange. I'm particular about my routines, especially with medications. Dr. Morrison had stressed the importance of consistency, taking them at the same time, keeping them in the same place to avoid missed doses. I'd been placing that organizer on the second shelf, right side, for 6 months. My hand knew exactly where to reach even in the dim morning light. Standing there in the bathroom, I tried to recall if I'd moved it myself. Maybe I'd been distracted? But no, I distinctly remembered placing it back after my morning dose. Same as always. The house had been empty all day, just me and the quiet. Jennifer had been showing properties since 8, David at the office. The cleaning lady came on Tuesdays, not Thursdays. At dinner that night, I almost mentioned it, but something held me back. We were having pot roast, Emma's favorite, and she was telling us about the class hamster named Mr. Whiskers, who'd escaped and been found in the art supply closet. Jennifer was laughing, actually laughing, not her usual polite smile. David was helping Emma cut her meat, making airplane noises that made her giggle. It was such a perfect family moment that bringing up something as trivial as moved medicine seemed petty, almost paranoid. But then Jennifer said something that made my fork pause halfway to my mouth. "You know, Margaret, I was reading this article about how over-medicated seniors are in America. It's actually frightening how many unnecessary pills doctors prescribe." She wasn't looking at me directly, focusing on her salad, but her tone had that edge I'd learned to recognize, the one she used when she had an agenda. David shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Jen, Mom's medications are carefully monitored by Dr. Morrison. He's been her doctor for 15 years. "I'm just saying," Jennifer continued, spearing a cherry tomato with unnecessary force, "that the pharmaceutical industry makes billions keeping people dependent on chemicals. There are so many natural alternatives now. My friend Rachel's mother got off all her medications and feels better than she has in years." I set down my fork carefully, keeping my voice level. "That's interesting, dear, but my heart condition requires specific medications. Without them, I could have serious complications." Jennifer finally looked at me, and there was something in her eyes I couldn't quite read. Concern? Frustration? Something else? "All those chemicals, though, swimming through your bloodstream constantly. It can't be good for you or safe for Emma to be around." "What do you mean, safe for Emma?" I asked, genuinely confused. "Well, pills lying around, children getting into things. It's a worry." My medications were locked in the medicine cabinet, with a child-proof cap on each bottle, in a bathroom Emma didn't even use. Before I could respond, David intervened. "Mom is extremely careful with her medications, Jen. There's no risk to Emma." Jennifer shrugged, that dismissive gesture she'd perfected. "If you say so, I just worry about everyone's health in this house." She turned to Emma. "Sweetie, finish your vegetables. Grandma grew them especially for you." The conversation moved on, but unease had settled in my stomach like a cold stone. That night, lying in bed, I kept thinking about the moved organizer, Jennifer's comments, the way she'd said all those chemicals with such disdain. I told myself I was overthinking, that Jennifer was just health conscious, maybe a bit too influenced by whatever wellness blogs she read. But I started paying closer attention after that night, though I couldn't have said exactly what I was watching for. The mind has a remarkable ability to explain away what it doesn't want to see. Over the next few days, I became an expert at rationalization, crafting excuse after excuse for the small oddities that kept surfacing. When I found my pill bottles rearranged in the cabinet, labels turned backward, I told myself Jennifer must have been cleaning. She was meticulous about the house, after all, always straightening and organizing. The woman color-coordinated her spice rack and arranged books by height. Of course, she'd reorganize a messy medicine cabinet. Saturday morning, I woke up feeling slightly dizzy, a sensation I hadn't experienced in months. My first thought was that I'd forgotten my evening dose, but when I checked my pill organizer, Friday night's compartment was empty, as it should be. I must have just stood up too quickly, I reasoned. At my age, these things happen. I made myself tea and sat on the porch, watching Emma play in the backyard, the dizziness fading as the morning progressed. See? Nothing to worry about. Jennifer had started leaving health magazines on my nightstand, pages bookmarked to articles about medication dependency and natural healing. I'd flip through them politely, even mentioning over breakfast that they were interesting reads. She'd beam at me, squeezing my shoulder with genuine affection. "I just want you to be healthy, Mom, to be around for Emma's children someday." How could I be suspicious of someone who spoke about my future great-grandchildren with such warmth? When she brought home green smoothies from her favorite health food store, insisting they would give me more energy than those artificial vitamins. I drank them gratefully. They tasted like grass and disappointment, but the gesture seemed so thoughtful. She was trying to include me in her healthy lifestyle. This was bonding, wasn't it? The daughter-in-law I'd always hoped would see me as more than just David's mother. Tuesday afternoon, I couldn't find my reading glasses. Then I discovered them in the kitchen junk drawer, beneath old batteries and takeout menus. How did they get there? I must have set them down while looking for something else. My memory wasn't what it used to be. That's what aging meant. Little slips, minor confusion, nothing alarming, nothing worth mentioning to David, who was stressed enough with a big case at work. Jennifer had started coming home during lunch breaks, something she'd never done before. "Just checking in," she'd say brightly, finding me in the garden or reading in the living room. "You doing okay, Mom? Taking your medications? Not feeling confused or anything?" The questions felt pointed, but her smile was so genuine, her concern seemingly so real. She'd make us both salad, talking about her morning showings while watching me eat with an intensity that felt maternal, protective even. One evening, I overheard her on the phone with her sister. "She's getting older," she said, and my heart clenched. But then she continued, "I worry about her all the time. The medications, the gardening in this heat, trying to do too much. I wish she'd let us take better care of her." The words were kind, loving even. I was the paranoid one, seeing shadows where there was only concern. David noticed my quietness at dinner one night. "Everything okay, Mom?" I looked at my son, his face showing genuine worry. Jennifer beside him cutting Emma's chicken into perfect little squares. This was my family. They'd invited me into their home when I was drowning in grief. They'd given me purpose, a reason to wake up each morning. Jennifer had her quirks, yes, but didn't we all? She was a successful woman with strong opinions about health. That didn't make her malicious. "I'm wonderful," I told them, meaning it in that moment. "Just tired from all the gardening today." Jennifer reached over and patted my hand. "You should rest more, Mom. Let us take care of you for a change." Her touch was warm, gentle, sincere. I squeezed back, pushing down the tiny voice in my head that whispered something was wrong. I was being ungrateful, suspicious of kindness, inventing problems where none existed. This was my family, and families took care of each other. Thursday morning arrived gray and drizzly, the kind of October day that makes your bones ache before you even get out of bed. I reached for my morning medications at exactly 8 o'clock, just as I had every day for the past 2 years, since my heart episode. The moment I picked up the bottle of metoprolol, my blood pressure medication, I knew something was wrong. The weight was off. Not dramatically, but enough that my hand noticed before my brain did. I held the bottle up to the window's dim light, trying to see through the amber plastic. The pills seemed fewer, scattered at the bottom like the last candies in a jar. That couldn't be right. I just refilled this prescription last week, a 90-day supply. Dr. Morrison had specifically written it that way so I wouldn't have to make frequent pharmacy trips. My hands trembled slightly as I opened the bottle and poured the contents onto my palm. 23 pills. There should have been at least 80. I counted again, moving each small white tablet with my fingernail. Still 23. My heart began to race, which Dr. Morrison had warned me to avoid. Stress was dangerous with my condition. I checked the lisinopril next, 40 pills missing. The warfarin, my blood thinner, the one Dr. Morrison called absolutely critical, had barely a week's supply left. Each bottle I opened told the same story. Someone had been taking my medications, removing them systematically, leaving just enough that I wouldn't notice immediately. But who? The house was locked. We hadn't had visitors. The cleaning lady, Maria, had been with the family for 5 years and wouldn't even take home leftover food without asking 3 times. That left. No, it couldn't be. I refused to even complete the thought. There had to be an explanation. Maybe the pharmacy had made an error, but 3 bottles? All short by similar amounts? I sat on the closed toilet lid, bottles arranged on the counter like evidence in a crime scene. Think, Margaret. When did you last count them? But I'd never counted them before. Why would I? You trust the pharmacy, you trust your family, you trust that your medications will be there when you need them. The rain outside intensified, beating against the bathroom window. I needed to be systematic about this. I grabbed my reading glasses and checked the refill dates on each bottle, all filled on the same day last week, October 15th. The pharmacy receipt would show the quantities. I always kept those in my dresser drawer with my insurance paperwork. Walking to my room felt like moving through water. Each step was heavy with the growing certainty that something was deliberately, maliciously wrong. The receipt was exactly where I'd filed it. Paper clip to my insurance card. Metoprolol, quantity 90. Lisinopril, quantity 90. Warfarin, quantity 90. All confirmed, paid for, supposedly in my possession. I returned to the bathroom and locked the door, something I never did. Using my phone's calculator, I did the math. Based on my daily doses and the refill date, I should have 83 pills of each medication, give or take one, depending on the timing. Instead, I had less than 30% of what should be there. A memory surfaced suddenly. Jennifer, 2 days ago, coming home at lunch. I'd been in the garden and came in to find her coming down the stairs. "Just use the bathroom," she'd said. But there was a powder room downstairs. Why would she go upstairs? I'd thought nothing of it at the time. My chest tightened, not from my heart condition, but from the realization I'd been avoiding. I needed more proof, something concrete. With shaking hands, I gathered all the medication bottles and hid them in my knitting bag, deep beneath the yarn. Then I went outside to the garbage bins, rain immediately soaking through my sweater. The black bin reeked of yesterday's fish dinner. I pulled out the white kitchen bag, then another, then another. In the third bag, mixed with coffee grounds and banana peels, I found them. White pills, small blue ones, yellow tablets, all scattered like confetti among the waste. My medications, my lifeline, thrown away with the garbage. I stood in the kitchen, soaking wet from the rain, garbage bag in one hand, pills collected, and a paper towel in the other. My heart hammered against my ribs, each beat a reminder of why these medications mattered. Jennifer walked in from the living room, stopping short when she saw me. Her eyes went from my face to the pills in my hand, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. "What are you doing?" she asked, but her voice had already changed. The warmth was gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. "I could ask you the same thing." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "These are my heart medications, Jennifer, from the garbage, my pills that keep me alive thrown away with the trash." She didn't even flinch, didn't deny it. Instead, she crossed her arms and lifted her chin, that defiant gesture I'd seen her use with difficult clients. "You found them? Good. Now we can have an honest conversation about your health." My health? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You threw away my prescribed medications." "I threw away poison," she corrected, moving to the coffee maker as if we were discussing the weather. "Margaret, those pills are killing you slowly. Every single one is a toxin that your body has to process. I've been researching this for months. Natural healing, holistic medicine. Your body can heal itself if you just give it a chance." My legs felt weak. I gripped the counter for support. "Jennifer, I have congestive heart failure. Without these medications, my heart could stop. Dr. Morrison explained this. You were there at the family meeting after my hospitalization." She laughed, actually laughed. "Dr. Morrison is part of the system, Margaret. Do you know how much money he makes from keeping you sick? Every prescription is a kickback. Every visit is a payment. They don't want you healthy. They want you dependent." "This is insane," I breathed. "These medications saved my life." "Did they? Or did they just make you think you need them?" She pulled out her phone, scrolling rapidly. "Look, Here's an article about a woman who cured her heart disease with turmeric and meditation. Here's another about the dangers of blood thinners. You're taking rat poison, Margaret. Literal rat poison. Warfarin is a carefully controlled blood thinner that prevents strokes, I said, my teacher voice emerging. The dose is monitored monthly. This isn't some conspiracy, Jennifer. This is medical science. Her face hardened. Fine, keep poisoning yourself, but not in my house. The words hit like a slap. Your house? Yes, my house. Where my daughter lives. Where I have to watch you shuffle around like a pharmacy advertisement, pills rattling with every step. Emma sees you taking those drugs every day. What message does that send? That pills solve everything? That getting old means becoming a slave to medications? The message, I said slowly, is that Grandma takes care of herself so she can be here for the people she loves. David's voice came from behind us. What's going on? He stood in, the doorway, briefcase still in hand, looking between us with growing alarm. Jennifer turned to him, her expression morphing into concern. David, thank God you're home. Your mother has been digging through the garbage. I found her outside in the rain, confused, collecting trash. I think her medications might be affecting her mental state. I held up the pills. She's been throwing away my heart medication, David. I found them in the garbage. She admitted it. David's face went pale. Jennifer, is this true? I'm trying to help her. Jennifer's voice rose. You've seen how she's declining. The confusion, the forgetfulness, it's the medications causing it. I was weaning her off them gradually, safely. Weaning? I couldn't contain my disbelief. You're not a doctor. You're a real estate agent who reads wellness blogs. And you're a stubborn old woman who won't accept help. The mask had completely fallen now. Jennifer's perfectly composed face was twisted with frustration. My house. My rules. If you don't like how I'm trying to save your life, maybe it's time you found somewhere else to live. Somewhere more appropriate for your needs. David had taken Emma to McDonald's after the confrontation, unable to explain to a 5-year-old why Mommy and Grandma were yelling. The house felt hollow without them, tension thick as smoke. I sat in my room, door locked, trying to stop my hands from shaking as I took my rescued medications with water from my bathroom tap. Jennifer was downstairs, and I could hear her on the phone, her voice carrying through the heating vents with crystal clarity. She's losing it, Melissa, Jennifer said to her sister. Today I found her digging through garbage in the rain. In the rain, can you imagine? The neighbors probably saw everything. I pressed my ear closer to the vent, my heart sinking with each word. No, David doesn't see it. He still thinks Mommy is perfect, but I'm documenting everything. The confusion about her medications, the paranoid accusations, finding her going through trash. It's all going in my notebook. My friend Karen, the one whose mother-in-law had Alzheimer's, she said documentation is everything when it comes to power of attorney. Power of attorney. The words sent ice through my veins. The house is worth at least $400,000, Jennifer continued. She owns it outright, no mortgage. Can you believe she's just sitting on that equity while we're crammed in this place? Emma doesn't even have a proper playroom. And Margaret's pension, Robert's life insurance she never touched, her teacher's retirement fund. We're talking about almost $700,000 in total assets. I covered my mouth to stifle a gasp. She knew my exact financial situation. How? Then I remembered the mail that sometimes went missing, the bank statements I'd find opened, Jennifer's casual questions about my retirement planning. The timeline? Well, if we can establish mental incompetence, maybe 6 months. The medication thing is perfect, actually. She's either non-compliant with her prescriptions, which shows she can't manage her health, or she's taking them wrong, which shows confusion. Either way, it supports our case. Our case, not her case. Our. David will come around once he sees the pattern. I've been pointing things out subtly. Did you notice your mom forgot Emma's recital? She didn't forget. I never told her about it. Your mom seemed confused about her medications again. Little seeds of doubt. He's already started watching her more closely, asking if she's okay. By Christmas, he'll be suggesting assisted living himself. My legs nearly gave out. I sat heavily on my bed, processing the calculated cruelty of it all. This wasn't just about alternative medicine or concern for my health. This was a systematic campaign to steal everything I'd worked for my entire life. The best part, Jennifer laughed, a sound like breaking glass, is the assisted living facility I found. Sunshine Manor. It's the cheapest one that's still legal. $1,500 a month for a shared room. Her house sale alone would cover 20 years, and she won't last 5 with her heart condition, especially once she's there. Those places are where people go to die, Melissa. Depression, giving up, rapid decline. We'll have full control of her assets within a year, 2 tops. I heard footsteps and quickly moved away from the vent, but Jennifer wasn't done. Her voice grew softer, more calculating. The beauty is, it's all legal. Concerned family members taking care of a declining elderly relative. We're not stealing. We're protecting her assets from scammers. We're not abandoning her. We're getting her the care she needs. David's law degree will make everything look legitimate. No one questions a lawyer's son managing his mother's affairs. The front door opened. David and Emma were home. Jennifer's voice instantly transformed. "Oh, Melissa, I have to go. Yes, we'll pray for her. It's just so hard watching someone you love decline. Bye." I sat in the darkness of my room, feeling the weight of my new knowledge. This wasn't confusion or misunderstanding. This was a deliberate plan to destroy me, packaged as care and concern. And my son, my David, was either complicit or blind. I wasn't sure which was worse. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat on my bathroom floor with my back against the locked door, finally letting the tears come. They started as silent streams down my cheeks, but soon my whole body shook with sobs I muffled in a towel so no one would hear. The cold tiles beneath me felt appropriate somehow, hard and unforgiving like the truth I'd discovered. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through photos, torturing myself with memories. There was David at 8, missing his front teeth, holding up the science fair trophy we'd stayed up 3 nights to earn. I remembered using my grocery money to buy the display board, living on rice and beans for a week so he could have the same materials as the other kids. He'd hugged me so tight that day, whispering, "You're the best mom in the whole world." Another photo, his high school graduation. I'd worked a double shift the night before, then stood for 3 hours in the blazing sun to watch him walk across that stage. My feet had bled in the new shoes I'd bought for the occasion, but I'd never stopped smiling. "Everything I do is for you, Mom," he'd said, placing his diploma in my hands. "This is ours." The wedding photos were the hardest. I'd given them $30,000, nearly everything I'd saved, pretending Robert's life insurance had been less than it was. David never questioned it. In the photo, Jennifer was kissing my cheek, her white dress pristine against my modest mother-of-the-bride outfit from the clearance rack. "You're not losing a son," she'd whispered that day. "You're gaining a daughter." A daughter who now wanted to lock me away and steal everything I'd built. I thought about Robert, my second chance at love. We'd met at a grief support group, 2 broken people who'd found wholeness in each other. 15 years wasn't enough, but they were years filled with quiet dinners, gentle hands holding mine during my first heart episode, his voice reading to me during recovery. "Promise me," he'd said near the end, "that you'll let David take care of you. Don't be too proud, Maggie. Let our boy help you." Our boy, who was either too blind to see his wife's evil or too weak to stop it. Or worse, maybe he agreed with her. Maybe those years of sacrifice had meant nothing. Maybe I was just a burden now, an old woman standing between them and the money they wanted. I pressed the towel harder against my mouth as a wail tried to escape. 42 years of teaching, thousands of students whose lives I'd touched, and I was going to end up in Sunshine Manor's shared room, drugged and forgotten while Jennifer redecorated my house, sold my mother's china, threw away the garden Robert and I had planted together. The worst part was the isolation. Who could I tell? Who would believe that sweet, successful Jennifer, devoted mother and professional woman, was plotting against her elderly mother-in-law? I could hear the doubts already. Maybe you misunderstood. She's probably just concerned about you. Family conflicts are so difficult at your age. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. When had I become this old woman with thinning hair and wrinkled hands? Where was the strong single mother who'd worked 2 jobs? The teacher who'd stood up to administrators to protect her students? The woman who'd started over at 53 when her first husband left? She was still in there somewhere, beneath the grief and medication and careful routine of staying alive. Emma's drawing was taped to the mirror, a crayon family portrait where I stood between her and her parents, all holding hands under a rainbow. "Grandma Maggie makes everything better," she'd told me when she gave it to me. But I couldn't make this better. I couldn't even protect myself. I stayed on that bathroom floor until dawn, crying until I had no tears left, grieving not just for what I'd lost, but for what I'd never really had. The bathroom floor was cold and unforgiving when the first rays of sunrise crept through the window. My body ached from sitting there all night, joints stiff with age and exhaustion. As I struggled to stand, gripping the sink for support, I caught my reflection again in the mirror. Red-rimmed eyes, hollow cheeks, the look of defeat. Then Emma's drawing caught my attention, that bright rainbow above our crayon family, and something shifted inside me. No. The word came from somewhere deep, a place I thought had died with Robert. No, I would not go quietly into that dark night. No, I would not let Jennifer win. No, I would not abandon Emma to be raised by a woman who could plot so coldly against family. I splashed cold water on my face, the shock of it bringing clarity. "Margaret Thompson," I told myself sternly, "you survived Jimmy, walking out with nothing but the clothes on your back and a 7-year-old to raise. You survived teaching in inner-city schools where other teachers quit after a week. You survived a heart attack at 58 and learned to live with a damaged heart. You survived losing Robert when you thought you couldn't breathe without him. You will survive this too, and more than survive, you will fight." My phone showed 5:47 a.m. David wouldn't be up for another hour. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Betty Morrison, my friend since we'd taught together 30 years ago. Betty, who'd become a nurse after retirement because she couldn't sit still. Betty, who'd testified in elder abuse cases. Betty, who'd told me once, "Maggie, if you ever need anything, day or night, you call me." I typed the text carefully. "Betty, I need help. It's serious. Can you come by today when everyone's at work? Don't call, just text back." Her response came within minutes. "On my way at 9. Stay strong." Next, I scrolled to Tom's number, my nephew, Robert's sister's boy, who'd become a lawyer like David but specialized in elder law. We exchanged Christmas cards, occasional calls, but he'd said at Robert's funeral, "Aunt Maggie, you're all the family I have left of Uncle Rob. If you ever need legal help, I'm your guy." "Tom, it's Aunt Margaret. I need legal advice urgently. Can we meet this week?" Privately. "It's about my living situation and assets." Then I did something I should have done months ago. I went to my dresser, pulled out the small digital recorder I'd used for capturing student presentations, and checked the batteries. Still working. I slipped it into my pocket. If Jennifer wanted to document my supposed decline, I'd document her conspiracy. Standing in that bathroom, I made a mental list, the same way I used to plan curriculum for a difficult school year. First, secure my medications somewhere Jennifer couldn't find them. Second, gather evidence of her plans. Third, protect my assets legally. Fourth, find somewhere safe to go if needed. Fifth, make sure David knew the truth, whether he wanted to hear it or not. I wouldn't run. This was my family too, and Emma needed at least one ethical role model in her life. But I wouldn't be a victim either. Jennifer thought she was dealing with a weak old woman, confused and easily manipulated. She was wrong. She was dealing with a teacher who'd faced down gang members trying to recruit her 6th graders, who'd fought the school board for better resources, who'd raised a son alone when everyone said she couldn't do it. I opened my journal, the leather one Robert had given me for our last anniversary, and began writing everything down. Dates, times, exact words, the pills in the garbage, the overheard conversation, evidence, documentation. The same skills I'd used to track student progress would now protect my future. By the time I heard David's alarm clock, I was dressed, medications hidden in a zippered pocket of my purse, recorder ready, face composed. Jennifer thought she'd broken me. She was about to learn what 42 years of dealing with preteens had taught me about strategy, patience, and the long game. Betty arrived at precisely 9 o'clock, parking her silver Honda 2 blocks away and walking to the house like she was just a neighbor out for a morning stroll. When I opened the door, her nurse's eyes immediately assessed me, taking in everything from my pallor to the way I gripped the doorframe. "Show me everything," she said simply, and I knew I'd called the right person. We sat at the kitchen table where I'd taught Emma her letters, and I laid out my evidence like a prosecutor. The medication bottles, the journal entries, photos of the pills in the garbage I'd had the presence of mind to take. Betty's face grew stonier with each revelation. When I played the recording of Jennifer's phone call, her pen stopped moving across her notepad. "This is attempted murder, Maggie," she said quietly. "Stopping cardiac medications without medical supervision could kill you. She knows this. But how do I prove it? It's my word against hers. David already half believes I'm getting confused." Betty smiled, the kind of smile I remembered from when she'd caught students cheating. "We're going to be smarter than her. First, medical documentation." She pulled out her blood pressure cuff and stethoscope. "I'm going to check your vitals every day, document everything. Your blood pressure is probably spiking from the stress and missed doses. That's evidence. I'll write reports that would hold up in court." Next came Tom's visit 2 days later. He arrived in his BMW looking every inch the successful lawyer, briefcase in hand, legal pad at the ready. Jennifer was at a showing, David at work, Emma at school. Tom's expression darkened as I told him everything. "Aunt Maggie, we need to move fast but carefully," he said, pulling out documents. "First, we're updating your will today, making it ironclad. I'm adding a clause that if you're declared incompetent, everything goes into a trust managed by me, not David. Second, we're filing a medical power of attorney naming Dr. Morrison and me as decision makers, not family. Third, I'm putting a freeze notification on all your accounts. Any attempt to access them will trigger an alert to me." "What about the house?" I asked, already checking if Jennifer's name appears on any documentation. If she's been forging signatures or manipulating papers, that's fraud. He paused. "Aunt Maggie, I need you to start recording everything. Every conversation, every interaction. Illinois is a two-party consent state, but if you're in common areas of your own residence, you have more leeway." The plan evolved over the next week. I played the role Jennifer had cast for me, acting increasingly confused but in calculated ways. I'd forget Emma's snack, then produce it from my purse with perfect clarity when Jennifer wasn't looking, winking at Emma like it was our secret game. I'd ask Jennifer to repeat things, pretending not to understand, while the recorder in my pocket captured her impatient, cruel responses. The masterstroke came from Betty. "We need witnesses," she said, "neutral parties who'll see what's really happening." So we orchestrated carefully. I invited Mrs. Chen for tea when Jennifer would be home for lunch, knowing Jennifer would make comments about my confusion. Mrs. Chen, sharp as a tack at 75, picked up on Jennifer's condescension immediately. I had my medications hidden in 3 places now: a set in Betty's house, another in a lockbox at Tom's office, and a third in a hollowed-out book in my room. I took them religiously, letting Jennifer think she was still secretly discarding them. I'd leave decoy pills in the medicine cabinet, marking them with tiny dots to track if they disappeared. Dr. Morrison was brought into the plan during my scheduled appointment. His face went dark when I explained everything. "I'll document that you're fully competent, medication compliant, and that any deviation from your prescription could be fatal. This goes in your permanent medical record, dated and witnessed. The trap was nearly set, but we needed one more thing. Jennifer had to expose herself publicly, undeniably, in front of witnesses who couldn't be dismissed. Tom had an idea for that, something that would happen at Emma's upcoming birthday party. "Trust me, Aunt Maggie," he said. "When this is over, she'll never be able to hurt you or anyone else again." Emma's 6th birthday party was planned for Saturday, October 28th, 3 days before Halloween. Jennifer had insisted on an elaborate affair, inviting her real estate colleagues, the neighbors, Emma's entire kindergarten class, and their parents. "It's good networking," she'd said, but I knew better now. This was about image, presenting the perfect family while the imperfect grandmother was quietly erased. The morning of the party, I woke with purpose. Betty had been by the night before, checking my vitals, documenting that my blood pressure was dangerously elevated from missed medications, even though I'd been taking them secretly. Tom had confirmed he'd be there, bringing his girlfriend who happened to be a social worker specializing in elder abuse. Dr. Morrison had agreed to stop by, framing it as a neighborly visit since he lived just 3 streets over. I played my part perfectly. At breakfast, I asked Jennifer 3 times what time the party started, wrote it on my hand with shaking fingers while she watched with satisfaction. I forgot to take my morning medications from the decoy bottles, letting her see the full pill organizer. "Oh dear," I muttered. "Did I take these already? I can't remember." Jennifer's eyes gleamed. "Maybe you should skip them today, Mom. You don't want a double dose." "You're right," I agreed, knowing the real medications were already in my system from the hidden stash. "You always know best, dear." David noticed my hand trembling as I poured coffee. "Mom, are you okay?" "Just excited about Emma's party," I said, spilling a little coffee for effect. Jennifer shot David a meaningful look, the kind that said, "See what I've been telling you?" The guests began arriving at 2 o'clock. The house filled with the chaos of children's laughter, parents chatting, the bounce house inflating in the backyard. Jennifer was in her element, designer dress perfectly pressed, greeting everyone with air kisses and real estate cards discreetly tucked into gift bags. I sat in my chair, occasionally calling Emma by the wrong name, just often enough for people to notice. Mrs. Chen arrived with her grandson, giving me a knowing look. Mr. Rodriguez brought his entire family, having been briefed by Mrs. Chen about the situation. They positioned themselves strategically, phones discreetly ready. Tom arrived fashionably late, his girlfriend, Sarah, immediately engaging Jennifer in conversation about the house, about family dynamics, dropping subtle questions that Jennifer answered with increasing candor, not realizing she was being professionally assessed. Dr. Morrison came at 3, just as the cake was being brought out. "Margaret," he said warmly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "How are my favorite patients' medications working? Been taking them regularly?" "Oh, doctor," I said, letting my voice waver. "I think so. It's hard to remember sometimes." Jennifer materialized beside us. "Actually, Dr. Morrison, we've been concerned about the medications. Mom's been confused, taking them incorrectly. I've been trying to help manage them for her." "Really?" Dr. Morrison's voice was carefully neutral. "How exactly have you been helping?" "Well, simplifying things. Maybe she doesn't need so many pills. Natural healing might be better at her age." I stood to get Emma water, then swayed dramatically, gripping the table. It wasn't entirely acting. The stress was genuinely affecting me, but I exaggerated for effect. Gasps rippled through the room. David rushed to my side, Dr. Morrison immediately checking my pulse. "Margaret, when did you last take your heart medication?" Dr. Morrison asked loudly, professionally. I don't know. The bottles seem empty. Jennifer said I didn't need them today." "What?" David's voice cracked. "Mom needs those medications. You know that, Jen." Jennifer's face flushed. "She's confused. I never said that." But several guests had heard our morning conversation, including Tom, who'd been in the hallway with his recorder. Then, right on cue, I let my legs buckle. Not enough to hurt myself, but enough to cause alarm. As I went down, I heard Emma scream, "Grandma!" The room erupted in chaos. Someone called 911. The stage was set for Jennifer's complete exposure. The paramedics arrived within 7 minutes, their uniforms and equipment transforming Emma's birthday party into a medical emergency scene. Children were quickly ushered to the backyard while adults pressed closer, phones out, recording everything. Jennifer tried to maintain control, directing the paramedics with false authority, but they ignored her, focusing on me. The lead paramedic, a young man with kind eyes named Marcus, took my vitals while his partner, Diana, went through my medications. She held up the empty bottles from the medicine cabinet, the decoy ones I'd strategically placed. "Ma'am, these are all empty. When were these last filled?" "Last week," I whispered, loud enough for the crowd to hear. 90-day supplies. Diana's expression hardened. She showed the bottles to Marcus. "These are critical cardiac medications. Metoprolol, warfarin, lisinopril." She turned to the room. "Who's been managing her medications?" Jennifer stepped forward, still trying to project confidence. "I have. She's been confused, taking them incorrectly. I've been helping by simplifying her routine." "By simplifying, do you mean withholding?" Marcus asked, his voice carrying an edge that made Jennifer step back. She doesn't need all those chemicals. Natural healing is better." The room went silent. Dr. Morrison pushed through the crowd. "I'm her physician. Those medications are life-sustaining. Without them, she could have a fatal cardiac event within days." Marcus stood slowly, deliberately. "Ma'am," he said to Jennifer, "withholding prescribed cardiac medication from a dependent elderly person is attempted murder under Illinois law. It's also elder abuse, medical neglect, and potentially fraud if you were planning to benefit from her death or incapacitation." Jennifer's face drained of color. "That's not... I was trying to help. These medications are poison." "No." Sarah, Tom's girlfriend, stepped forward, badge now visible. "I'm Sarah Martinez with Adult Protective Services. I've been observing this situation, and what I've witnessed today, combined with prior reports we've received, constitutes serious elder abuse." Prior reports. Jennifer's head whipped toward me. I sat up straighter on the gurney, my collapse evidently not as severe as it appeared. Tom emerged from the crowd, phone in hand. "I've been recording this conversation, which is legal as it's occurring in a public space with no expectation of privacy." He hit play, and Jennifer's voice filled the room from our morning conversation. "Maybe you should skip them today, Mom. You don't want a double dose." Then, devastating in its clarity, came another recording. Jennifer's phone call to her sister. "The house is worth at least $400,000. If we can establish mental incompetence, maybe 6 months, Sunshine Manor. Those places are where people go to die." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Parents pulled their children closer. Jennifer's real estate colleagues stepped away from her. David stood frozen, his face cycling through disbelief, recognition, and horror. "That's taken out of context," Jennifer shrieked. "She's setting me up. She's not confused at all." "You're right," I said clearly, standing from the gurney with Betty's supporting hand. "I'm not confused. I've been documenting everything. Every pill you threw in the garbage, every cruel word, every part of your plan to steal my home and lock me away." Betty stepped forward with a folder. "I'm Betty Morrison, registered nurse. I've been monitoring Mrs. Thompson daily. Her vitals show clear signs of medication deprivation. I have 2 weeks of documented evidence." Dr. Morrison added, "I examined Mrs. Thompson 3 days ago. She's completely competent, fully oriented, with no signs of dementia or confusion. What she does show are symptoms consistent with deliberate medication withholding." The paramedics radioed for police backup. Jennifer turned to David, desperate. "David, baby, tell them. Tell them how confused she's been." David's voice was hollow, broken. "The only confusion here was mine. How could you do this to my mother? To Emma's grandmother? For money?" Emma stood in the doorway, her princess birthday dress crumpled, tears streaming down her face. "Mommy hurt Grandma?" The police arrived as Jennifer tried to leave. The birthday party had become a crime scene, 23 witnesses to attempted murder, elder abuse, and fraud. As they placed her in handcuffs, Jennifer kept screaming about natural healing and poison, but nobody was listening anymore. The weeks following Emma's birthday party unfolded with the steady momentum of justice finally being served. Jennifer was charged with attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial exploitation. Her bail was set at $250,000, which her sister Melissa couldn't cover, leaving Jennifer to await trial in county jail. The real estate agency immediately revoked her license, and her face appeared on the evening news under headlines that read, "Local realtor accused of plotting to kill mother-in-law for inheritance." David was devastated. For 3 days after Jennifer's arrest, he couldn't look me in the eye. Then he came to my room one night, collapsed at my feet, and sobbed like the 7-year-old boy whose father had abandoned us. "I failed you, Mom. After everything you did for me, I let her hurt you. I saw the signs and ignored them." I held my son while he cried, running my fingers through his hair like I did when he was small. "You trusted your wife, David. That's not a failure, that's human. The failure was hers, not yours." The divorce papers were filed within a week. David requested emergency custody of Emma, which was granted immediately given the criminal charges. Jennifer's parents, mortified by their daughter's actions, supported David's custody claim and publicly apologized to me. They offered to pay for my medical expenses, which I declined. I didn't want their money, I wanted my life back. Tom handled everything brilliantly. He discovered that Jennifer had already started the paperwork to have me declared incompetent, forging David's signature on several documents. She'd also been in contact with Sunshine Manor, had toured the facility, and put down a deposit for a room she expected me to occupy by Christmas. That evidence sealed her fate at trial. 3 months later, Jennifer was convicted on all charges. The judge, a stern woman named Patricia Hayes, didn't mince words at sentencing. "Mrs. Thompson, you targeted the most vulnerable person in your household, someone who had shown you nothing but love and generosity. You plotted to steal not just her assets but her dignity, her autonomy, and ultimately, her life. This court sentences you to 15 years in prison, with possibility of parole after 8. Jennifer screamed that it wasn't fair, that she was trying to help, but the courtroom was already emptying. Her narrative of natural healing had crumbled under the weight of recorded evidence and expert testimony. I sold the house, but on my terms and timeline. The market was good, and I got $425,000 for it. With that money and my savings intact, I bought a beautiful 2-bedroom condo in a senior community that was nothing like Sunshine Manor. It had gardens, a pool, activities, and most importantly, autonomy. I could lock my door, manage my own medications, and live my own life. David and Emma moved to a smaller house closer to my condo. 3 times a week, Emma comes for after-school snacks and homework help. She's in therapy to process what happened, but children are resilient. Last week, she told me, "Grandma, I'm glad you're okay. I knew something was wrong when Mommy was mean to you, but I didn't know what to do." "You loved me," I told her. "That's all you needed to do." Betty and I started a support group for elder abuse victims. We meet monthly at the community center, sharing stories, resources, and strength. Dr. Morrison speaks at some meetings about medical abuse and the importance of medication compliance. Sarah Martinez from APS regularly attends, helping victims navigate the system. Mrs. Chen and Mr. Rodriguez check on me daily, true neighbors who've become family. They testified at Jennifer's trial, their recordings and observations crucial to the conviction. Mrs. Chen likes to say, "We old people need to stick together. The young ones think we're weak, but we've survived too much to be taken down by amateurs." My health has stabilized. With proper medication and reduced stress, my heart condition is managed. Dr. Morrison says I could live another 20 years if I take care of myself. I plan to see Emma graduate high school, maybe college. I plan to travel with Betty to places I've only seen in books. I plan to live, really live, not just survive. I stand in my garden now, 6 months after that terrible birthday party, tending to tomatoes that grow even more vibrantly in the raised beds of my condo's community plot. The soil here is different, but the seeds are the same ones my grandmother gave my mother gave me, and someday I'll give to Emma. Some things survive no matter how many times they're transplanted, no matter how harsh the weather. Some things are stronger than the storms that try to uproot them. Last week, I received a letter from Jennifer in prison. David wanted to throw it away unopened, but I read it. She's found religion, she says. She's sorry, she says. She was only trying to help, she still insists, but now understands she went about it wrong. I didn't respond. Forgiveness isn't required for healing, and some bridges once burned with such deliberate cruelty don't deserve rebuilding. What strikes me most about this whole experience is how common it actually is. Since starting our support group, I've met dozens of seniors with similar stories. The son who slowly drained his mother's bank account while telling her she was too confused to manage money. The daughter who isolated her father from friends, convincing everyone he had dementia while she sold off his possessions. The nephew who moved in to help and systematically took over every aspect of his uncle's life until the man was too frightened to speak up. Elder abuse is a silent epidemic, hidden behind closed doors and family shame. We're taught to respect our elders, but somehow that respect disappears when those elders have something others want: money, houses, insurance policies. We become obstacles to overcome rather than humans to cherish. Our years of wisdom get reframed as confusion. Our careful routines become evidence of decline. Our trust becomes a weapon used against us. But here's what Jennifer and others like her don't understand. We didn't survive decades of life by being weak. Every elderly person you see has weathered storms you can't imagine. We've buried parents, friends, sometimes children. We've survived wars, recessions, pandemics. We've raised families on nothing, built careers from scratch, reinvented ourselves more times than we can count. We are not fragile flowers waiting to wilt. We are oak trees, deeply rooted, scarred, but standing. The morning I found my pills in the garbage, I could have given up. I could have accepted that this was how my story would end. Betrayed, forgotten, discarded like those medications. But something in me refused. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was spite. Or maybe it was just the same strength that got me through single motherhood, through teaching in underfunded schools, through losing loves and finding new ones. That strength exists in all of us, at any age. The moment we stop fighting for ourselves is the moment people like Jennifer win. They count on our silence, our embarrassment, our fear of causing family drama. They weaponize our love for our children and grandchildren against us. But love doesn't mean accepting abuse. Love doesn't mean disappearing quietly so others can profit from our absence. If you're watching this and something resonates, if you're seeing warning signs in your own life or in the life of someone you love, please don't wait until the pills are in the garbage. Document everything. Tell someone you trust. Contact Adult Protective Services. Find a support group. You are not alone and you are not crazy, no matter what anyone tells you. And if you're a son or daughter watching this, remember that your parents gave you life, likely sacrificing more than you'll ever know to help you succeed. They deserve dignity, autonomy, and respect, not schemes to take. What they've earned. Their assets aren't your inheritance in waiting. They're the safety net for their remaining years. What would you do if someone you trusted tried to erase you for money? Would you fight back like I did, or would you disappear quietly? How many red flags would it take before you said enough? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched you or reminded you of someone you know, please share it. Sometimes the right story at the right time can save a life. And remember, no matter your age, you're never too old to fight for yourself. You're never too old to matter.